So when we deal with financial maths, we often have to be able to translate like percentages into fractions. And so I would like you to translate these fractions, these percentages into fractions for me. We'll call it A, B, C, D, and E. Can you do that for me now? What is that as a fraction from a 6% per annum? Per annum just means per year. And if I wanted to put, Pema, are you not seeing the screen at the moment? I can do it again. I can just go share. How's that? Does that work any better? So we are trying to write these as fractions, and the one way we could do it is 6 over 100, or I could write 0.06. What about the other ones? Yep. So this could be written as that. And in your calculator, you could use either of these. You could use the 7.5 over 100 with the fraction button, or you could use 0.075. And Camogelo has just got the whole lot. Fantastic. So 9.63 over 100, or 0.0963. And then for 10%, we could have 10 over 100, or we could have 0.10. And then for 12%, we could have 12 over 100 or 0.12. So one of the main things with financial maths is you often are given percentages for a time period, and you have to be comfortable moving between percentages, decimal, and common fractions. Now, another thing that you sometimes have to do is if it's per year, so this was per annum means per year, if I ask you what is this interest rate written per quarter or PQ. So let's say I want to know what is 6% per annum written as an interest rate per quarter. Just a straight translation from a 6% nominal interest rate to a per quarter interest rate. Who thinks they can work that out? What would my interest rate be per quarter? So you don't, it's not an effective. So this is just a straight chopping it up, and it's gonna be just 1.5% per annum. So all I did was I chopped it up, divided it by 4. So I just went 6 divided by 4. If you wrote that as a decimal, it would also be 0.0. Yeah, so that's correct. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as that. So that's 1.5% per annum. And what about if I said to you, what is the interest rate per, sorry, this is 1.5% per quarter, not per annum. That was me just making stuff up. If I said to you, what is the interest rate of 6% per year if it was chopped up into a per month interest rate? What would that look like? What would its interest rate per month be as a percentage? Okay, not 5%. Yeah, it would be 0.5%. So this is just, this is not about effective rates. I know some of you are thinking about something with an effective interest rate. We're not doing that. I'm just chopping this up into a, if the base rate is 6% per annum and I chop up into a per month, it's going to be the equivalent of 0.5%. We haven't spoken about compound or simple yet. This is before that. Okay, so using the same idea, let's go down to 12% per annum. I want to know what is the interest rate per quarter, that one, and what is the interest rate per month for that one. So we're doing that. I want to know those two. Okay, so 12% per annum, what's that going to be per quarter? Well, we're just going to divide it by 4, which gives me 3% per quarter. And what's it going to be per month? It's just going to be 1%. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on from this because I think you've all got the basics of this. I just need to make sure you could do that conversion, but things are looking good to me. Okay. So if you think about chopping up time periods, we know that there are 12 months a year. There are 4 quarters. How many 6-month periods? There's 2. How many days in a year? 365. We're going to ignore leap years for now. So I want to know how many, let's go with A, B, C, D. How many months in 3 years? How many quarters in 5 years? How many 6-month periods in 18? How many days in 3 years? I want to know what you think the answer is. So I can see lots of students are saying 36, which is correct. What about B? It's going to be 20 because it's 5 times 4. What about C? So how many 6-month periods in 18 years? Well, there's 2 per year, so there's going to be 36. So 18 times 2. How many days in 3 years? Well, it's going to be 1,095, or 365 times 3. Yeah. So being able to break the interest rates down into the appropriate size for interest, and also knowing how many time periods fit into another time period is also important. But I can see that students do generally understand this. If not, please draw my attention in the chat. Okay. So when we talk about interest, which is the focus for today's financial maths lesson, there are 2 types of interest that we calculate. There's simple interest, where you get interest on only the original amount, and there's compound interest, where you get interest on interest. And the formulas look a little bit different. So simple interest is that one. Compound interest is that one. They both have a P to start with, so that's the initial value. They both have an I inside the bracket, and I is the interest rate per time period. And they both have an N, which is the number of time periods. But there is one difference between them. Who can spot the difference? The N. Yes. What about the N? The N is a power. So in compound interest, you see N is a power or an exponent, whereas the N is just a normal variable with simple interest. So we often talk about SI, simple interest, and CI, compound interest. Now, to make sure you understand the difference between the two, I want to give you two options. So we'll say option 1 and option 2. And in option 1, you have got 1,200 Rand to start with. And in option 2, you also have 1,200 Rand. Your time period, your N, is 3 years. In option 1, your N is 3 years in option 2. However, your interest rate here is 10% per annum, simple interest on the left-hand side, and the interest rate on the right-hand side is 10% per annum, but it's compound interest, 10% per annum, compound interest. I want you to work out how much you will end up with in option 1 and how much you will end up with in option number 2, given that I've given you the formulas above here. And basically what you need to do is you need to take, for SI, which is this one over here, you're going to use that formula at the top. And then for this one, for compound interest, you're going to use that. And I want to see what your final A values are in each case. Okay, over to you guys. And see what you can do. What are we getting for our answers here? The students seem to be getting 1560 for simple interest, and for compound, you see the 3 floating in the sky here, which definitely plays a role. We get 159720. Now, given that everything about these two examples was the same except the method of calculating interest, which option would you choose? Option 1 or option 2? Okay, so Andila has said option 2, and so is Nompio, and I think I know why, is because option 2 ends up with more money. You started with the same 1,200, but you ended up with more money in the compound interest option. So how did that happen? Now, the magic of why this happened is contained in the formula, right? So this does it for you, but I just want to show you why it works. So if you imagine year 1, year 2, year 3, with simple interest, in year 1, you get 10% of the original. Now, what is 10% of 1,200? It's 120. Okay, and what do you get in year 2? You still get the same thing. You get 120. And what do you get in year 3? You still get 10% of the original. You get 120. Give me a thumbs up if you understand why the simple interest 10% per year is 120 Rand each year. Okay. So how do we get from 1,200 to 1560, well, we just added up 1,100 plus these bits of interest, and we got to 1560. Now, what happens with compound interest is in year one, we do the same thing. So in year one, we get 10% and we get 120 rands worth of interest. But in year two, we no longer just base our interest calculation on 1,200. We get 1,200 plus 120, which is going to be 1,320. And that we get 10% of that, which gives us 132. And so in year number two, we get 132 rands worth of interest. And then in year three, well, what do we get interest on now? Well, now we actually need to go 1,200 plus the first year's interest, which was that, plus the second year's interest. And just to make sure my calculation does make sense, 120 plus. This is going to be we are taking 10% of that, which is 145.2. Now, how do we get up to this amount over here? Well, all we did was we went 1,200 plus all these things. So 1,200 plus 132 plus 145.2. And we get 1597.2. Now, do you have to show this when you work this out? No. What I did up here and up here is completely fine. What I find is students don't understand why you get a different amount. And what I was trying to show you here is how with compound interest, you get interest on interest. You don't keep going back to the original. The first year is the original, but after that, the interest that's in the bank helps you out. Whereas with simple interest, you always keep going back to the original amount that you were given, and you get interest on that only. So give me a thumbs up if the logic made sense of that explanation. Give me a thumbs down if you feel a bit confused. I was just trying to show you the difference between the two types. Okay, cool. Well, then let's get a bit of practice. So I'm going to go straight. I'm not going to show you examples because I think I did one there. I want you to do 3 questions for me now. So I'm giving you, you need to find the missing value in each of these 3. So in the first case, we're using compound interest, and you need to find A for me. In the second case, you have to find P for me. And in the third case, you have to find I for me. Now, the compound interest formula that we need to use is going to be this. And so what you need to do is, if you try to find A, you need to sub in P, I, and N and try and find A. Now, I'm going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes to try and do those 3 questions. And when you're ready, you can pop the answer in the chat. I'm just going to get some water. You would round up, Andile. You're fine, you can round up. So we know that that would be that. And then this would be 2. Or we can round to 2 decimal places unless otherwise stated. But I'm not too worried about rounding right now. We're just kind of getting our brains on the right track. To the power of 2, I get 1139.69 for A. Yeah. What about the next one? It's a little bit different. What is the p-value going to be? The p is a bit stuck over here, huh? But what we could do is we could bring all the other stuff across. To get what p is. Let's see what my calculator said. We should get 2961.73 for rounding there. Okay, so we've done A and B. We just need to do C. C is a little bit trickier because we have to undo something to the power of 2.5. Maybe a trick to think about is, how do you undo something to the power of 2? What would you normally use as your technique? So I know I end up with this. Start with that. And I've got to the power of 2.5. Who would like to make a suggestion about how we could conquer this? What undoes to the power of 2.5? Actually, before we even do that, I think the 750 has to. So we have to bring this across to get that part. Now, if it was squared, you would square root it. Now, you're not going to square root it, but you're going to root it, and you're going to root it by 2.5. Now, on your calculator, if you've got a Casio, you go Shift, and then you go to the button next to x squared. It looks a little bit like that. And the bit inside is going to be a fraction, right? So you're going to have 100 over 750, but over here, you're going to have 2.5. And when you do that, you're going to end up with 1 plus I, but then what is on this side is the question. Let's find out. I get now, I still haven't got I yet. And what I need to do to get I is I take away 1 from both sides. And if I do that, then I will get 0.12195.145. We normally write this as a percentage. And so as a percentage, if I round to 2 decimal places, I get 12.2% per annum. Now, I might have lost some of you. So before we have a break, I just want to ask for some questions. For C, give me a thumbs up if you followed what I did with C. Give me a thumbs down, and also then maybe raise your hand so we can have a discussion. Are we all right for now? Okay. Not a problem. Just a shout because I know that taking the route on both sides is a bit sneaky. And so sometimes it can catch us a little bit. Okay, well then I think it's time for a brain break. So I want everyone on their feet and we are going to take care of our brains. So our brains take care of us. And let's start by just stretching out a little bit. Oh, and then we can start with a little rotation on your feet. And rock and roll. There we go. Okay, then let's shake out our arms. Shake out our legs. And let's do some tricep stretching. Some tricep. And the other side. Okay, and then let's do this one. And let's switch to this one. Okay. All right, then let's get our heart rates up with some skipping, air skipping, and we'll go in 3, 2, 1, and let's do 20. There we go. Cool. I hope that your heart rate was raised a little bit. If not, maybe you should have done double skips. That is an experience all by itself. And then let's see, here's some Maths 24, some fresh Maths 24 puzzles that I'd like you to have a go at. Who feels like they are in Maths 24 mode today? Who is going to get the red or the blue or the yellow? I think I've got the red one. Let's have a look. What do we have? So Andile has 8 minus 6 plus 1, which is 3. And if you take all of those, you times it by 8, you get 24. Yeah, nicely done. Anyone got the red and, sorry, the blue and the yellow? Who feels like they might have a little something to add here? That's a 9 and a 4. 9 and a 4. So Emmanuel has said 9 minus 5 is 4. And then 4 times 3. I think you're not quite there, Emmanuel, but you're on the right track, I think. What about a 9 minus 3? 9 minus 3 being 6? Nope, that's not. It's proving quite hard today. Let's have a look at yellow. So yellow, 2 times 6. Yes, well done, Tershi. Well done. So you've got 24. So it's only the blue one that escapes us for the moment. Oh, I get what I have to do. 9 minus 5. I think you got it, Emmanuel. 9 minus 5 is 4 plus 4. And then that whole thing times 3. So 4 plus 4 is 8. So 9 minus 5 is 4 plus 4. Perfect. Yes. Perfect score, everyone. Well done. Well done. Okay. Let us return to our lesson, but I'm very impressed by your Maths 24 skills. You guys are rapidly improving. But before, most of grade 11 maths focuses on compound interest, but I just want to check that you still know how to use simple interest. So we're going to do the same sort of exercise, except I'll give you the simple interest formula, and I want you to find me N, I want you to find me A, and I want you to find me P for those 3 questions. And the difference here is that they are using simple interest. And see if you can work out those 3 answers for me. And if you're unsure about something or you want to discuss something from earlier in the lesson, then just pop your hand up and I can assist you. So in the first one, you're given, you start with 210 Rand, you end with 500, and your interest rate is 9.3% per annum. Now we convert that to a decimal, it's normally easier, or 9.3 over 100 would also be fine. And can you find N from, it's hidden inside the bracket there, can you free it using algebra? Free N from its jail. Now, if I wanted to, what I could really just do here is divide both sides. Now, there are other ways of doing this, but we should all get the same answer. So I am getting 14.84. Now, yeah, so it's 14.848. So actually 85 if I'm rounding to 2 decimal places. So we should get 14.85 for A. Pop me a question if you're feeling unsure. Otherwise, you can go on to B. So B. What do we get for that? And I see we are getting 590.4 for B. Okay, now C. Yeah, no, absolutely, Sana. That's the whole beauty of Watobe lessons. You can ask questions. Whereabout can I, which one would you like me to explain, Kesana? Is it A or B or C? Or was it before that? Whereabout would you like a little bit of a top up? A. Okay. So in A, the N that is missing is the time period. So you need to know how many years make this happen. And what I did was I divided both sides by 210. And that's why all of a sudden you'll see the 210 disappears and the thing in the bracket is still there. It's just that I've moved the 210 to the other side. Then I admittedly did quite a few steps together, but if you imagine what this would look like, you'd get 500 over 210. And if I took away 1 from both sides, I would get, I would get that. Kisana, have you followed me up to that step? Just say yes or no in the chat if you have. Okay, and now the last step is you want to get the n by itself, and you just divide both sides by that. Okay, and then that's where I got the answer there. Okay, so with C, let's have a look. With C, you're given the final value to start with. Okay, and then they also give you the interest rate per annum, and they give you this, and you need to find what P is. Now, the good news is, everyone, that I think this whole bracket can be moved to the other side. And so we just get 3250 divided by whatever that is. And we're going to get P, which is the initial value we start with. Now, what is that initial pleasure, Kasana? I'm so glad I could help. And I'm so glad you asked your question. Divided by 1, so plus 0.14 times 7. And sometimes I notice myself hitting the SD button to go in from decimal to common fraction, 1641.41. And that would be the starting point. Give me a thumbs up if you followed how we did the simple interest calculations. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't follow. Okay. Now, in grade 11, you are expected to be able to find the A, the P, the I, the N values, whether you're given simple interest or compound interest. And so that's what we were doing today. We were just practicing those ideas. Now, in the next lesson, but in the little bit of time that we have left, we're going to look at what happens if instead of compounding, so I'm actually going to leave this question out. We're going to go to a different one. So this is something that we would have done now. Actually, you know what? Let's do it. So I want to know, what is the value of 8,800 after 3 years at 7.5% per annum compounded annually? Which of the 4 options do you think is right? And I want you to do that. I want you to do that for me now. See if you can pick which option you think is correct. And then there should be 3. So what are we getting as our answer? So times 1 plus 0.075, close brackets, to the power of 3, 10,932. So the correct answer would be D. So D is the correct answer. Okay, so that is all good. Now, what happens if instead of it being per annum compounded annually, it changes? So in this question, what is the value of 9,800 after 4 years if it's invested at 6% per annum compounded quarterly? What is the N value going to be, and what is the I value going to be? Before we start off, I want to know, what is the N value in this question going to be? It's not going to be 4. So it's 4 years, but we're working in compounding quarterly. So this would be 16. What is my interest rate going to be? It's not going to be 6% anymore. It's going to be 0.06 divided by 4. Or you could say, yeah, exactly. So now find me which of these 4 options is the correct answer. If you start with 9,800, you invest for 4 years at 6% per annum nominal rate, compounded quarterly, what do you get? Oh, sorry, guys. Mills, I got a bit excited with my... So the correct answer here is A is equal to 12,436.06, or A. Yeah, you did nicely there. You did nicely. Let's do another one. Okay. At what interest rate should you invest 5,000 if you want to double your money in 6 years? The interest rate is going to be compounded annually. So the interest rate is per annum and it's compounded annually. Yeah. If they don't tell you, you can assume it's compounded annually. Which option do you think is correct? This is a bit harder now. What I like to do sometimes is I write down things that I know, and that helps me keep track of what I need to find. What's my A value going to be? They didn't tell me what the A value is, but because they said it's double, I know that it needs to be 10,000. And now if I put this into the formula, I get that, but I know that this is actually 6. And then if I move the 5,000 across, if I divide both sides by 5,000, I'm going to get 2 is 1 plus I to the power of 6. And we covered this earlier in the lesson. How do we get rid of that? Well, we have to take the 6th root of this. And what do we get? So we're going to say so on this side, we're going to get 1.1224, and so on. And if you take away 1 from both sides, you're going to get 0.12246. And I can kind of, is there no, did everybody else just quickly check me? Did you give me a thumbs up if you got what I got? Because the closest one here would have to be B. Okay. Because what you can see is the interest rate would have to be 12.25%. Yeah, that must have been a mistake. Yeah, but as long as you understand the logic that I was using there, that's not a problem. Okay, awesome. Well, then let's keep swimming. What about this one? What is the value of 8,800 after 3 years at 7.5% compounded monthly? What do we think the answer to that would be? Oh, have we done that already? We have done that already. It feels familiar. Did I do this? That was 6%. Sorry, we haven't done that one. Can you do it? So I'll give you a hint. You take the interest rate and you divide it by 12. Yeah, it might be if the answers are wrong, then we will check now. Now, what's tricky is it says 3 years, but it's compounded monthly, which means this needs to be 3 times 12. And so if I put this into my calculator, I get 8,800 times, open bracket, 1 plus fraction, 0.075 over 12, close bracket, to the power of 36, because there are 36 months. And what I'm getting is 11012.72599. And so if I round that off, I'm going to get 11012.73. And so the correct answer should be C. Okay, nicely done, nicely done. I see lots of C's in the chat. Let's see if I can get okay, let's finish with this question today. So it says here, Sabrina invests 10,000 Rand in an investment account for 2 years. Determine the final amount if interest is paid at 5% per annum compounded weekly. We will say, let me quickly check on Google how many weeks there are in a year. So weeks in year, it's either 52 or 56. I think it's 52. So 52 weeks in a year. In 1 year. I want you to see if can you work out the answer for A and B, and then we're going to call it a night for tonight. We've done enough. Okay, keep those answers coming. I see Nompilo has put an answer in. And so keep those answers coming. So be careful with this. So in order to get the first one, we have to divide the 5% by 52 and then times it 2 by 52 because there's that many weeks in the year. And for the other one, we have to divide it by 4 and then times the 2 by 4, which gives us 8 outside. Both of these start though with 10,000. Keep those answers coming and I will reveal all in a moment or two. I do have the answers here that I can bring up, hopefully. Let's see. Okay, so what you should have done in this is we take the 5% and we divide it by 52. And then to get the 104, we had to go 2 times 52. So the first one, we get 11,051. And then for the second one, we end up with 13,424. Okay. And I think if we look at today, what we did was we looked at how fractions can represent interest rates. And then we also focused on the 2 different types of interest, simple interest and compound interest. And we looked at basically how to use those formulas. And at the end today, we started to look at if we start to vary the compounding period, how does that affect our calculations that we do?